Good Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Megan McPherson. Breaking right now, St. Paul Mayor Kare facing allegations of sexual harassment by the city's police chief. Her, just months into her first term as mayor, accused of making inappropriate comments to both the chief and other city employees. Audrey Russo has been gathering information overnight and is at City Hall with details.
Well, we're learning that the city has hired an outside law firm to investigate these allegations, which first came to light back in April. Police Chief Axel Henry making the decision to come forward after learning that the mayor's alleged misconduct went beyond isolated incidents. Now, that's all according to this memo here, filed on April 1st. We obtained it, and it was filed by Chief Henry's attorney. Now, it accuses the mayor of sending sexually inappropriate text messages to city workers, including police officers. The memo includes one example, a photograph that we're not showing here, but you can read more about this on our website, kare11.com. Now, when we reached out to the city for a statement, St. Paul spokesperson said, quote, to protect confidentiality and the integrity of the process, the city will not comment on an active investigation. The mayor has deep respect for city employees and regrets any unintended impact her actions may have had. Now, we also reached out to Chief Henry's attorney for an updated comment last night. He didn't say much, only saying that the chief is focused on solving crime right now as his main priority. Back to you.
Take a look at this brand new video out of Wisconsin this morning. You can see that massive tornado moving across Appleton Monday afternoon, blowing transformers as it ripped up power lines. The governor now declaring a state of emergency, and here's why. The National Weather Service ranking the tornado as an EF3 with winds up to 140 miles per hour. They say it was on the ground for 20 minutes, leaving a path of destruction at 12 miles long.
It's unbelievable. When they say war zone, I think a war zone would be sometimes far less destructive, because this is just everywhere you look and for miles.
As of this morning, there's still nearly 6,000 people without power across 2 counties. Amazingly, there were no injuries. Happening tonight, people will have another chance to weigh in on a proposed deal for California company Sutter Health to acquire Allina Health. If this agreement moves forward, Allina would become Sutter Health's Upper Midwest division. It would still keep its name, brand, and regional headquarters. However, some Allina doctors say the deal could lead to rising costs and have a negative impact on patient care. Tonight's forum is at 6 p.m. in Faribault. And this morning, the family of one of the survivors in last week's mass shooting outside an Uptown nightclub is speaking out. 9 people were injured when shots rang out outside Rain nightclub, including 20-year-old Devin Wyatt. His family says he suffered a spinal cord injury, broken ribs, and a collapsed lung. While he's now breathing on his own, they say he faces a long road to recovery and may never walk again.
I don't want this to be the end. I don't want to just accept what they're telling me right now.
His family is also calling on elected leaders to take stronger action to address gun violence. Minneapolis police say no arrests have been made yet, but investigators are continuing to follow all possible leads. We are less than 2 weeks out from primary day. One race that's flying under the radar is the battle for the Democratic nomination in Congressional District 2. The bulk of it includes southern metro counties, Scott, Dakota, and a portion of Washington. The 3 major DFL candidates in the race are State Senator Matt Klein, former State Senator Matt Little, and State Representative Kayla Berg. This is the seat left open by Congresswoman Angie Craig, who is running for Senate.
When I got into politics at the state level 10 years ago, it was because of the experiences of my patients. And what they're telling me now is that they can't afford their lives. They're fearful for our democracy. They're tired of all the chaos.
I'm not afraid of taking on Trump, and I'm not going to hold back, and I'm pretty unabashed about that. And so we're telling people, pick a fighter. And I'm the only fighter in the race.
I am the only woman in the race, and I'm the only working class candidate in the race. And we are seeing real energy and momentum behind our campaign, people who see themselves in their choice for a representative.
The Republican candidate in this race, State Senator Eric Pratt, does not have any serious primary challengers. This morning, several water systems across Minnesota are back online after a widespread cyber attack hit more than 30 communities across the state. State and federal authorities are investigating who is behind the attack. City leaders in Brom, Plymouth, South St. Paul, and Maple Plain all say they were targeted. Some good news, officials say the drinking water is okay.
I think it's frustrating for any agency that has interruptions with its communication systems with infrastructure. In our case, our staff, their plan to go out and manually operate these systems just to make sure the public doesn't see any sort of a hiccup. But I would say definitely out of the ordinary, frustrating, but we're very resilient in responding.
The FBI says it is in contact with the cities that were hit. Experts say this attack is unique because it targeted water systems rather than going for money. Developing overnight, fighting reigniting in Iran, and more countries are getting involved. Saudi Arabia taking part in U.S. strikes against Iranian forces in Iraq. This after President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met for the first time in person since the war began. Cyclospora is in Washington with details.
Hi there. The Trump administration had said the pause in U.S. strikes was intended to give space for diplomacy that intermediaries said had shown some signs of progress. Now that's thrown into question once again. Fresh fighting overnight in the Middle East, shattering a days-long pause in strikes. U.S. Central Command now saying it successfully knocked down a wave of Iranian missiles launched in an attempted surprise attack on American forces based in the Middle East. CENTCOM also saying the U.S. military joined with Saudi Arabia to strike Iran-aligned terrorists in Iraq that they say targeted U.S. forces and Saudi energy infrastructure with drones. It all comes just as President Trump had voiced optimism about progress in diplomatic talks, while again threatening more destruction if Iran doesn't agree to a long-term deal.
I could take out most of their bridges in less than an hour. All of their power plants would be gone.
Earlier Tuesday, the president met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who downplayed any friction over the allies' goals for the Iran war.
We have a common commitment. We don't want to see this fanatic regime in Tehran have nuclear weapons.
Also at the White House, President Trump separately hosted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who then met with senators on Capitol Hill in his push for more American missile defense systems.
I shared what we need, our needs. I shared it with the president.
Both world leaders came to Washington for the funeral services for the late Senator Lindsey Graham.
He was a force of nature, and I will miss him greatly.
And Tuesday night, the Senate voted to advance a sweeping Russia sanctions bill that Senator Graham had been pressing for and that now bears his name. An Iran-backed militia in Iraq said at least 20 of its members were killed in the U.S.-Saudi strikes overnight and called it a dangerous escalation. An Iranian state media is now reporting that Iranian forces struck and halted 3 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz overnight. In Washington, Cyclospora, NBC News.
Today, advocates for a new law banning AI notification technology in Minnesota will speak out at the state capitol. It comes as Elon Musk's XAI sued the state trying to stop the law. The bill was signed into law earlier this year and it's set to take effect this Saturday. Musk's company says the law is a, quote, overbroad content ban on free speech, arguing creating AI images and videos is protected by the First Amendment. The lawsuit also claims the law's definition on what is considered nude is too strict. In response to the lawsuit, Governor Tim Walz took to X, writing, quote, "See you in court, creep." Attorney General Keith Ellison had a similar message for Musk, writing on Facebook, "Generating AI images is appalling and he'll see X in court." Now to a health alert you'll want to know about. This morning, experts from the University of Minnesota are breaking down the facts surrounding the ongoing Cyclospora outbreak. Experts say right now the risk here in Minnesota is very low, with no confirmed outbreak clusters in the state. When it comes to lettuce and other vegetables, experts say most farmers irrigate their crops using well water, a source that's less likely to be contaminated with human fecal matter, which is where this parasite comes from.
I think that folks should, not be scared to eat produce. It's the time of year when fresh produce is at its peak and its bounty, and we definitely don't want to miss that.
Experts say the only way to kill the Cyclospora parasite is to cook your food to at least 158 degrees. But there are other ways to minimize your risk, including washing your produce with cold water. It's a spot in Lakeville locals know for all the wrong reasons. A roundabout that's seen hundreds of crashes in just a couple years, averaging one every other day. The double-lane roundabout sits at the intersection at Kenwood Trail and 185th Street. It's been around for more than a decade, and despite several attempts to modify it, nothing has helped. The roundabout replaced a four-way traffic light, which people in the area say caused more severe accidents. But one of the solutions could be reversing this one.
I would say the most radical is to move it back to a four-way stoplight.
I kind of have mixed emotions both ways because I saw what it was before and how many serious accidents that were there. Something has to be done.
Both the city and county are working towards a better solution. Well, if you've been missing Gopher football, today is your lucky day. We're expecting all sorts of coverage as PJ Fleck and the team take to the podium for Big Ten Media Days. Will Hall is in Chicago this morning with a preview.
Good morning. Welcome to the Windy City, site of this year's Big Ten Conference Media Days, the sort of unofficial start to the college football season. A very busy but fun day ahead here in Chicago as we'll catch up with Minnesota head coach PJ Fleck heading into year 10 as head coach in Dinkytown. We'll also catch up with some of his star players, including running back Darius Taylor and returning starter at quarterback Drake Lindsey, coming off a phenomenal redshirt freshman campaign last fall. We'll also catch up with preseason Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year Anthony Smith. A lot of fun, all sorts of coverage headed your way all day long right here on Kare 11. Signing off from Chicago, Will Hall, Kare 11 Sports.
Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.